Dear students, welcome to the knowledge series. Here we are going to discuss on backpropagation algorithms. As you all gone through the earlier video series of my neural network, I have been discussing about the neural network as a whole from a different dimension. A neural network is a group of connected input-output units where each units are assigned with a weight associated. And this network is nothing but the model of a human nervous systems or a mimic of a human nervous systems where the human understanding can be generated using a artificial neural network systems, where we are going to discuss about the backpropagations. Backpropagations is the one of the important components in the machine learning. As I mentioned here, in the machine learning, the backpropagation is widely used algorithm in training feed-forward neural network for supervised learning. We will talk about a feed-forward. Before that, we have discussed about the supervised learning in the earlier series, where you find the output is being fed back to the input, just like a teacher is going to monitor the performance of students after the end of teaching. So in the same way, the machine also used to work. So in the backpropagations is the essence of a neural network training. And in this network method of a training or in the form of a tuning, the weights of the neural network is being adjusted. Thereby, if any variation is being observed, a further tuning of the weight is being carried out till the network find that there is a reduce in the error rate. And that's how they make the model particularly more reliable for the future process. Backpropagations, in short, is also termed as a backpropagation of errors. That is how it is being considered. And it is a standard methods of a training in the artificial neural networks. And with the help of this method, the machine learning can able to find the exact point of the classifications where they will able to identify the output results or the output the predicted results related to the actual expected results. So that's how the system's performance exists in the case of a backpropagations training methods. So here, if you look across the history of the backpropagations algorithms, the history of the backpropagations algorithms is being stated in the form of years. You can see that in the year 1961, J. Kelly, Henry Arthur, and E. Bryson, they studied the basic concept of the continuous backpropagations, which was based on their theory. So they have contributed the backpropagations theory as a lot for the future researchers or future scholars to identify and to contribute more in this area. Way back in 1969, Bryson and Ho, they gave a multi-stage dynamic systems where the backpropagations can able to find the performance of the system or and can able to optimize the model for exact results. In the year 1974, Verbose stated the possibility of applying the backpropagations in an artificial neural network network systems and the principle was developed by Verbose for these ANN systems. And in the year 1982, the Hopfield he brought his idea on the neural network where this network could able to contribute for the back propagations. Way back in 1986, David E. Rumelhart, Geoffrey E. Hinton, Ronald J. Williams, they contributed to the back propagations and tried to see that how the gain it can able to do a pattern recognitions to a larger extent. Way back in 1993, he was the first person to win the international pattern recognitions contest with the help of these back propagations. That's how the back propagations keep on continuing. Even today, when we talk about a machine learning, back propagations has many attributes that over which the several research work is being carried out, and a lot of contribution is being taking place. So now we go further to our discussions about the back propagations with respect to the figures and its way of understanding. Now, if you see here, I have put the artificial neural network follows to gain maximum accuracy and minimizing error values using some of the components like parameter initializations, feed-forward propagations, back propagations. And these are some terms I have used over here. So when we talk about artificial neural network, in that the value of the weights and the bias are initially randomly initialized, and because of that initializations, the neural network probably finds the error between the output and predicted error and expected error, predicted results and expected results. So between these two results, the error the neural network try to create because of the initial random initializations. So there is need to reduce this error. Now this error can be reduced by a network, for which we should able to design a neural network in such a way that the weight and the bias, if it is being initialized in the initialized conditions, if it is randomly selected, if it can that randomly selected initialized weights and the bias, or any one of the components or the weight itself, if we can able to modify or upgrade based on the error that has been generated between the desired and the predicted results. Or the actual value what it is being observed. So if within these two components, if the results can able to create an error, so that error can be made proportionally proportional to the change in the weight, or the modification in that weight, and that weight if we can adjust in the network, so that that network after training again it is being carried out to monitor the results. And then if the results comes as close to zero, then we say that the network is an efficient or a maximum accurate model. That thereby we can have a minimum error. Now here we have to understand that in the initial case, the parameter, when we talk about a parameter initializations, in this condition the weight and the bias associated with the artificial neural network, once it is randomly initialized, after receiving at the input, the network is moving in the feed forward. If you see this neural network here in the input layer, you are seeing the two layers, and in the output layer you can see a single nodes, here in the hidden layer you can see 5 nodes. So input 2 nodes, 5 nodes, and single nodes. These layers takes the input and moves in the forward directions. Then we termed it as a feed forward. So after receiving the input, the network feed forward the input and make its associations with the weights which is being assigned to the every link, followed by followed by the bias which is given to the network, that is at the node point. If it can able to generate the output associated with the random value may not be appropriately correct, or so in that condition the feed forward propagations will not be the substitute for creating a maximum efficiency or minimizing the error. Now if you look across the feed forward propagations, feed forward propagations, after considering the parameter initializations, when the input is given to the input layers, it propagates the input from the input layers through the weights to the hidden layers. Now a hidden layer unit is will collect that one and it will sum up all the inputs which is coming over there, followed by it will be passing through the activation functions, and after passing through the activation function it will generate the output. That output is the what we can see is we will be seeing across the nodes in the middle layer. Now these nodes job is to process. They are not the one which will be results for the accuracy. Rather they will be finally contributing for the output by processing the input, processing the inputs which is being received from the input layers for the propagations. So this is what in the case of a feed forward propagations. With the feed forward propagation is only to carry the input datas to the output. Now coming to the back propagation. Now back propagation is one of the important components. The principle behind the back propagation is that once the input parameter is being received at the output, from the output it has to return back to the input. Now what exactly it means? The principle behind the back propagation is to reduce the error. So here you will be getting actual results, and that actual results and expected results, the network is expecting certain results. If the deviations between the expected results and the actual results, if it is having an error, the back propagation algorithms will try to reduce the error value, because error value that has been created because of the random selections of the weight and bias at the initial phase of the feed forward conditions. Now the system will be going for a training under the supervisory learning methods. You know, in the supervisory learning methods we are having a feedback loop. So here the feedback loop is following in the form of a back propagations. And the system is going to train in the supervised learning methods, where the error between the system output, that is the actual output, and the expected output is being modified to the internal components. What is that internal components? That is the change in the weights and the change in the bias. That means if the old weights is there or the old bias weights are there, so those things has been those weights are getting modified, and there is need to take look into the update of the weights during the back propagations. And once this process is continuing or continues, then the system will try to get more and more closer to the low error. That means the error become minimum, and that's how the back propagation in the neural network works. So this is what exactly it means. So here the basic aim of the network is that During the process of a back propagation, the update of the weight and the bias takes place, and this is the basic concept of the back propagations algorithms. Now, if you look across these figures, in these figures you can see that there are three sections, but you can find that there are 4 layers. That is, the input layer is there, hidden layer is there, output layer is there, and in the hidden layer there are one more hidden layer is being put. So that's why you can see that there are 4 layers systems. However, we only take into considerations 3 layers. The middle layers, even if it is a multiple layers are there, we consider as a number 2. The first is input layer, number 2 is a hidden layer, number 3 is the output layers. Now let us see some of the points here. Now here, if you see that input layer, it receives the X. So all the X0 to Xn arrives through a pre-connected path from the some other point, preceding points. Now these inputs, once it receives, every input of X is associated with the all other nodes of the hidden layers. So it moves in a feed forward conditions, and input is modeled using a real weights W, and the weight is usually randomly selected in the initial case, and that's how the same sequence will follow. This hidden layer is also associated to several other nodes. So it also follows in the way the input to the hidden has followed. So hidden to hidden also follow in this way. And finally, the last hidden layer is connected to the output layer. So where you can see that 2 nodes are there. Here a 3 input layer. In the input layer 3 nodes. In the hidden layer there are 4 nodes, like that. Multiple hidden layer is having a similar 4 nodes. Finally, in the output layer you are having 2 nodes. So here also this hidden layer is connected to the output layer, and it tries to produce the output. Now one thing you have to remember this is that every time the nodes receives the input, the 2 processes take place. The first process is summing up, the second process is nothing but the activation functions or the learning methods. So that is how. So whether you follow a sigmoidal functions or a ReLU or any other methods which you can apply, so that is how you follow here, and here also. Finally, the output is generated. So the output which is generated for the every neuron from the given input to the hidden and to the output layer, it is going to check. That is the I can put it as a 4th component. So it is going to check whether the output, the actual output, and the expected output or the desired output is same. If it is not same, so error is created. So error is nothing but the difference between the actual output and the desired output. Now once that output is there, then it will travel back. That is the 5th point. It is travel back from the output to the hidden layer to adjust the weight, and finally to the all the hidden layer components. So that's how it will keep on adjusting the weights of the and also the bias, such that again after doing this back propagation, the network will go for a further feed forward propagation to see that with respect to the change in weight, the output has gone to the error 0 or not. If it is not, this process will continue, and this will keep on continue until the desired output is achieved. So this is what a simple way the back propagation algorithms work. But we will discuss more about these back propagations in the subsequent slides. where we will be seeing in the form of a mathematical in the later part. However, the initial phase of understanding the backpropagation, you have to keep it in mind that the purpose of the backpropagation is to train the network such that after doing the training, the net results during the process, it will find that the output is 0, having a error 0. So that's how this is possible in the case of a backpropagation by adjusting the updates of the weight and the bias. Now we go to the another important point, theoretical understanding of backpropagations. Now if you see this particular figure over here, now in this figure we are going to discuss about the gradient descent. So what exactly the gradient descent exactly it reflects, and why, what is the necessity behind this one to study. Now if you want to understand this gradient descent study, you have to see that what is the meaning of a gradient descent. So let us see this figure. Now if you see this one, is that the gradient descent is one of the important concept to in the case of linear regressions. And gradient descent methods, if you is basically is to improve the way we can minimize the error in the process of a learning rate, so that the systems can able to adjust to a fastest or in a appropriate way and also it can able to produce an optimized model conditions. Now to understand this gradient descent, let us see the analogy of the gradient descent. Now if you see here is that there is imagine this is a pit of a shape U, and you are standing on the topmost point in the pit, and your objective is to reach to the bottom of the pit. So what you can do is that you will try to descend down by in a number of steps, or you can put it as a discrete number of steps until you to reach you reach to the bottom. So if you decide to take one step at a time, automatically what will happen, you will be reaching to the bottom of the pit on a long time. That is one that is what you can do. You will be reaching very slowly. But if you take a very longer step, what will happen, you will reach to the bottom very fast. So yeah, so there are a chance that if you take a long steps, because of the force, you should not be in a condition that instead of reaching to the bottom, you may be further stepping up. So that may be that may also occur. So that is the case with respect to the overshoot. So that may also take place. And if you go very slowly, so automatically it is undershoot. So it will take a time to reach. So there is a need to decide how fast the algorithm should cover to reach to the minima, if you want to reach to the minima. So this if you want to see that in terms of a learning rate, here I have you can see in the figure, here is a small learning rate because the number of steps, discrete number of steps is taking place very slow. But here here is the figure climbing up, or you can take, if this arrow is showing like that, it is climbing down. So it is going randomly in a very faster way. So it is in a zigzag way. It is taking a big learning rate. So sometime the big learning may go for an overshoot, and this may delay the systems to reach to the minima or to minimize the error. This is talking about we are talking with respect to the how we can able to reduce the error to a minimum point. So that's why the gradient descent plays one of the important contributions for the discussions. There are different type of minimizing the error or minimizing the loss function. Some of them are sum of the error methods is there. And there are methods like a sum of the absolute error, that is another concept, or sum of the square of the error. You can take it for reducing, or you can go for a mean square error. That's how you can also take into consideration, or you go with a root mean square error. Like that, different form of error reduction concept is there. But our objective is to see that how we can able to minimize this error, so that our cost functions can be minimum to an extent. So here, if you see this one, in this particular figure, you are seeing there is a figure, something shown in a randomized way. The path over which a ball is moving. A ball is moving like this one. It is going like this to this one. So this is the local cost minimum function. This is the global cost minimum functions. Now here, this surface, this is known as a convex functions. And when we see these functions, this is a non-convex functions. This is a non-convex function. So if you see the convex functions, you will see that at this particular point you are having 2 points, and that is within that valley. But here when you see that it is outside that functions, so this is a non-convex region. So sometimes the cost functions can be a convex, can be a convex, or can be a non-convex. But whatever it may be, it is important for us to settle to a local minimum. And for a regression, linear regressions, it is always better to go with the convex functions. So here, that is what I mean to say. So if you take this gradient backpropagation functions, so and if you take a x and y coordinate, x coordinate you take it as a weight, y coordinate you take it as a square functions, a square error. That means I am talking about here this is a weight and here it is a square error. Now if you increase the weight, you keep on going down. If you decrease the weight, you keep on climbing up. And the point at the bottom minimum point, that is the global loss minimum or a global cost minimum, what we term. Now here, if you look across the cost functions, the cost functions depend upon when the gradient is in the positive, when the gradient is negative. When we increase the weight, the gradient is getting negative, and when you increase the when we increase the weight, so this is the increase the weight and decrease the weight. So when we say that when the gradient is negative, then we that means that there is an increase in the weight, and when the increase in the weight cause, then there is a decrease in the error. I repeat again, when we this is the increase in the weight and this is a decrease in the weight. So when we increase the weight, then we term that the gradient is negative. That means the error is reducing, or there is a decrease in error. But when we say the gradient is positive, that means there is a decrease in weight, and when we say decrease in the weight, means the error will increase in that case. So that's how this cost function is being explained with respect to the figure. Now let us see further. Now when we see across this two equations, or the representation of the expressions with respect to this figure, is that this talks about the cost functions. The cost functions can be figured out basically using a possible value in this particular neural network using 0 and 1. And we have to see that how this 0 and 1 exactly fit. Based on that fitting of 0 and 1, how we can able to minimize the problem so that there is an error reductions will take place. So this is the predicted value and this is the actual value. We take the sum of the predicted value and the actual values difference, its square, and divide by 1 upon n. So that is how we can minimize this particular case. Now this is a minimization functions. By when we do a square, just like you go for a mean square of the actual and the predicted between the your actual output and the desired output. So that's how you can able to minimize this one. Now the next function is the cost function. So when we see the difference in the predicted value and the desired value, if it can able to minimize so that it can reach to the bottom most functions, we have to take into consideration of a stock functions, which is the same thing which we put it like a j is equal to 1 upon n, sigma is equal to 1 predicted value of minus your actual square. Now when we take the difference, it shows the truth measures of the error, and when we square the error difference and the sum of all the data points and finally divide by number of data points that we select. If there is n data points, so we will divide by the n, and if there is a 4 data points, we'll divide by 4. So you are taking a difference, that is error, its a square, and its difference, so it's a square, and then divide by the number of data points. This will result in the cost function, or we term this one as a mean square error functions, this one. So mean square error functions is going to change the value of the 0 and 1 in the network node points, weights, and that's how we can see that the mean square error will come to either the local minima or the global cost minima that the network is looking for. That's how we can able to create this finding. Finally, we will see one more representation of a gradient descent. This is a three-dimensional view is that one, where you can try to see this one is that the gradient descent, as I have already stated, that this is a two-dimensional plot. Here in the three-dimensional plot, the gradient descent, basically it is one of the very popular representations with respect to the machine learning and the deep learning at this particular moment. And when we train the model, or when we train the network using a feed-forward and the back propagation model, the gradient descents will give the expressions like this: b is equal to a minus gamma of delta of f of a. What does it means? B is the next value. If you are, when we are going for the adjustment of the weight, we are going for the next adjustment based on the current adjustment, and this is the minimization for the gradient descents. And what is gamma here? This is nothing but the learning rate, how we are going to learn, whether you want a fast learning or a slow learning. That is what we means with respect to this one. Each time our step is small or a big. If it is a fast learning or a slow learning. Normally we say, tells the students is that you study properly, that you should not rush, so that you should so that you will not miss some of the important points. So that's how, that what I mean to say is that. So gamma is the learning rate, and delta of f of a is the gradient terms, and that is to simplify the directions of the steepest descent, how it is going down. Now here you can see that this is the global minima point. So the gradient as a slope of the functions is very important So higher the gradient, steeper the slope, and faster the model will learn. That is the finally I have to conclude. So with this I conclude here with respect to the back propagation algorithms basic concept, and in the next discussions of my video series I will discuss about the mathematical derivations of the back propagation algorithm. Thank you.